Welcome, friends. This is our 12th podcast. Today, we're talking about getting the results that you want and if you're willing to pay the cost to get just those results. I'm going to let Brandon take it away today. We got a good one for you.
Awesome. So one of the first misconceptions about just getting results in general is with a few like small, easy little changes in one's like in your diet or your exercise routine, like you can have like shredded abs, like big biceps, like tight butt, and look like your favorite actor or athlete. And you see these in like, you know, those like TV ads for like, you know, Insanity or P90X. Those are the ones that's just like, yeah, you just do this for like 15 minutes a day. And these are like what I notice in CrossFit. So just like from my perspective, it's people who come in and they'll ask how many days a week for results. Like it's just like that question. Like, so if I do this like 2 or 3 days a week, like what kind of results can I expect? And they're also the people who they'll couple that with, so if I come in 3 days a week, what supplement should I be taking? And then what will happen? It's almost like they think like if they check the boxes,
it works.
Like just stuff happens. Mm-hmm. And it's like they don't have to work at it. They just got to like come and do it. And so that's kind of like that person. Mm-hmm. And then on the other end of the spectrum are people who have this mentality, and I see this a lot, where they don't want to start a routine. So this is another misconception. They think getting into shape or losing weight, it's going to involve like painful, like intolerable sacrifice. You're restricting your food. All you can eat is like kale shakes or vegan food or only protein shakes, and like you can never have a beer again or like eat any pizza. Like everything's over, and that's the only thing you can do to get any type of results.
Yeah, and like what they don't realize is like it's a spectrum, you know? Yeah. It's like where do you want to fall on that spectrum? That's kind of what we're going to dive into here.
Yeah, absolutely. And this person, so like, again, from our perspective, when they come in, we'll see them, they'll say things like, it's the all or nothing approach. So they're like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to run in the morning. I'm going to do CrossFit 5 or 6 days a week and yoga 2 or 3 days a week. And I'm getting food from like a meal service. And if one thing goes wrong in that, they just throw their hands up and they're like, I can't do this. It's too
over.
Hard. It's
I tried.
Too hard. Yeah, I tried. I can't do this. So it's like the opposite ends of the spectrum. So those are like your two misconceptions. Mm-hmm. And like I want to let you kind of take over like the realities of what getting results kind of actually looks like.
Absolutely. So there's like 3 realities here. Like the first one is, you know, what it takes for you to lose the first 10 pounds won't necessarily be the same thing it takes for you to lose the last 10 pounds.
Absolutely.
Right? Then the same thing goes for training when you're doing the fitness. They go hand in hand. It usually takes like a lot more work on the tail end of things, and that's kind of like the other end of the spectrum that we're talking about, right? Then reality number 2, like if you aspire to be a fitness model or, you know, like an elite athlete, like that lean look, you might be surprised. Like most of these people don't typically look like the pictures you see on Instagram, 365 days a year. Those are pictures that they timed up well, you know? So those are, you know, taken around competition times and things like that. CrossFitters are a little different. They can walk around that way. Just because they're training so hard, their cardio's up and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then reality number 3, if you're not okay being like the next magazine cover or aspire to be lean and healthy, small adjustments over time will add up to like noticeable improvements in your lifestyle and maintaining the look that you want.
Yep.
So those are like 3 realities. And now we're going to talk about like this spectrum and, you know, different steps to take to move your way down that one.
Yep. So the first one's just going from, hey, I'm totally out of shape, I'm sedentary, I've got a higher than a healthy range of body fat, I may be overweight too. So making some changes here, some really simple changes. You don't have to do a ton of stuff. you can still live a pretty relaxed lifestyle and get from, you know, an unhealthy body fat range into like a more healthy range. So things like drinking less calories or alcohol every day. So a lot of people who tend to just put on weight over time, they drink a lot of their calories. So they, you know, they might have a pop habit, where they're drinking, you know, 2 or 3 Pepsis a day. And
if you cut out soda, you will be amazed at how quickly you will lose weight.
Yes. So that's a huge one. So like knock that out, or even just cut it in half, cut it down. Like pounds will just start to fall off you. Not overeating desserts or fast foods. So eating reasonable amounts. So sometimes once people get going on, whether it's like ice cream or like carby things after dinner, it kind of like cascades into just like a ton of stuff. So they're eating a lot. They're eating a lot of that. And it's just like, if you can, you know, portion it out, you can still actually eat a lot of that stuff. You just have to eat a reasonable amount. And then another one, and we're kind of talking about this on our drive over, is not backloading the majority of your calories for dinner and then post dinner and then just sleeping on it. So an example of this would be not eating breakfast, maybe eating like a small snack or something at work, not maybe taking lunch. You get home, you eat your dinner, and then you pull out ice cream, you eat ice cream, and then you pull out like pretzels, and then you start eating pretzels. And you just eat until you go to sleep.
And then it just sits in you.
Yeah.
And,
turns into fat.
Bingo.
So that's a huge issue in a way that I see a lot of people just gain weight. So not doing that, if you cut out, if you just make those simple steps, you know, and you can do it consistently over time, 6 months to a year, you're going to see those body fat levels really start to come into a healthy range. And then for exercise, you don't have to train that hard here. So like in this, from just going from like an unhealthy body fat range into like a healthier range, if you're going on walks every day and then starting to get into like a routine where you're training and going to the gym and doing a workout twice a week on top of daily walks, that can help pull you from that unhealthy range into that healthy range. And you can still have a pretty relaxed lifestyle. If you make those dietary changes that I kind of talked about, if you do that 80% of the time, you're going to see yourself go into that healthy range.
Absolutely.
So like going from overweight and out of shape to kind of like lean and in shape, like
so you know, now we're like shifting down the spectrum. You're gonna need to be in the zone of like you start in the zone of like a little bit extra padding, but it's not bad, but you want to move to more like, you know, it looks like you're in shape kind of range, right? So what we're thinking is like a guy, you're probably walking around like the 18 to 20% body fat range. You want to take it to 14 to 16. And on the other side, a woman who's probably 28 to 30 who wants to go 26 to 24% body fat range. Bigger changes are going to need to be made, right? So looking at the diet, you're going to have to eat more vegetables and more lean protein, right? You might have to start meal prepping a little bit, you know, putting some whole foods into your diet. Maybe you're packing lunches instead of going out to eat during lunch, things like that. A big one is just drinking less alcohol. You know, that like it just goes back to, you know, drinking calories. You cut out a couple drinks a week, it will show huge amounts of improvement in your body. Eating less processed calories and calorie dense foods. So a big easy one I always tell people is like just shop on the outside of the grocery store, because that's where like your produce is, and then your meats and veggies.
And
you know,
watch the peanut butter. So especially like girls, so they'll kind of trick themselves into thinking, you know, it's like, hey, this is healthy or it's natural, and they'll eat a lot of peanut butter, like protein balls, snack type things, and
very calorie dense.
That's, you know, a couple of those is like the equivalent of like a Snickers bar. Calories wise.
You just got to be very more like self-aware of what you're putting in your body at this point. And another one is like not eating when you're not hungry. So when you're bored, like don't reach for something. Just be conscious, like we were saying, of what you're doing. Then training and exercise-wise, this is definitely where you're going to have to kind of step it up a little more. You're going to be walking, playing recreational sports and things like that, sitting less, but more importantly, you're going to be in the gym more frequently, right? So, and again, this is going from, a little puffy to looking like you're working out, and those are the kind of the changes that we're looking at. Some will be harder for you, we get that, but again, it's like, what are you willing to put in for the look that you want?
Yep.
Right. So then going from kind of lean looking in shape to being like kind of in shape and competitive. What's that take?
Yeah, so that's sort of where I live most of the time. So this is kind of going from that 16 to 14% range, diving towards like that 14 to 10% range for guys with body fat, and then ladies, trying to drop it down into like that 20% sort of range, body fat wise. And then for CrossFitters thinking like, this isn't so much looking as like, hey, I'm competitive as like a games athlete, but now you're pretty competitive in the gym. You might be, one of the better people in the classes you take every day. Yep. You're trying to race workouts a little bit more rather than survive them or just like complete them prescribed. You're starting to like strategize and really attack them and try and get, good times, things like that. So things you have to do to go from like you look like you're in shape to now like, you look pretty competitive. You're starting to see some abs and things like that. At each meal, you want to get some lean protein and vegetables. So almost every meal, you're looking at eating some lean protein and vegetables. You're eating dessert or processed carbs probably between 1 and 3 times a week. You're drinking a caloric beverage 1 to 3 times a week, or you might not be drinking any.
Yep.
So you're limiting those things. So you're trying to start to limit those things. Training wise, you want to do some focused training, 4 or 5 days a week. So things like CrossFit, other group training classes, or following like a really focused training program. You could do it at a commercial gym, but you're doing focused work. You're not just kind of like aimlessly exercising. Like you're doing focused training with a goal in mind. And then you're staying active daily. So for 45 minutes to an hour every day, you might be like riding a bike to work, you're playing with kids in the park, but you're staying active. You're not just sitting around besides the time you're working out. You're on your feet more. You're a more active person. This is a tough transition. This is where a lot of people in our gym, I think, that's right where they're at.
Yeah.
So it's trying to make that transition from that lean and I'm fit and I've got to that spot to like, okay, this next little level is where I'm trying to break through. And like, you might kind of go between those. And like the body biz people are really good at like helping people make that transition. Like, hey, I'm going to write you up a plan and like, write you up a little extra credit, things that are going to get you over those humps. Because that's like a really tricky spot I've seen for a lot of people, like going from like, okay, I'm feeling good. Now I kind of want to start to see some abs. I want to like get some pictures when I'm at the beach, that type of thing. And that's again, like I like to speak on that part because that's where I'm living at for the most part now. And then the next level is like, okay, so we're looking at like super duper lean, like CrossFit Games competitor type stuff. Like that's a whole, now that's even like going from the level I talked about to that level, it's like triple the commitment that other step took. And that's what I'd love for you to speak on, because that's where you're living at.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, depending on your goals, this will kind of split ways, because like your cover model, fitness person, they can't really walk around the super lean like that. Like they can only dial that in for a little bit.
Sure.
Whereas like us CrossFit athletes, we can eat a lot. It's like Michael Phelps, what like we were talking about. I mean, that dude would eat 10,000 calories a day of just whatever he wanted because he was burning so much. Whereas if like you're just doing like the aesthetic stuff and maybe you're sitting on a treadmill for a little bit pumping iron, like you kind of got to be a little more focused. But like going to this level, like your diet is paramount. Like that is the first thing you think about in the morning and the last thing you think about at night, right? For a lot of these people, it's meal timing. You're not just like thinking about like, oh, I have to eat healthy. It's like, okay, I have to eat healthy. I have to eat at this time. you're packing meals everywhere you go. Like, I know people who carry food with them when they like go out, because they're like, oh, it's time I have to eat, you know, and like that's what it takes.
You're not jazzing it up either.
No, it's
when
like,
you're eating 5-6 times a day, or you're like fueling around training, like
it's chicken, rice, and veggies.
Yeah, it's just plain stuff.
And over and over. People ask me all the time, like, what I eat. I'm like, I've eaten the same thing every day for the past 4 years.
Yeah.
Like, I know what my breakfast is. I know what my lunch is. I don't mind it. Like, I'm a creature of habit. I can get away with that. But, like, no, that's what it's going to take.
Well, and your body craves it, too. Like,
absolutely.
You're fueling workouts on that. So, like, the last thing you want to do is, like, something that's super chefed up with, like, a lot of oil and stuff in it.
It
like,
will ruin me.
You're not going to, you don't want to dive into the ground and do a dozen, a million burpees when you're doing
in your
that.
stomach, right? Yeah, I know what my body wants. I know what I need when I work out. And, like, that's where you have to kind of take your diet and things like that. And then, like, your training is going to be very, very specific. So I know for myself, I do 2 sessions a day. I wake up in the morning, I go in, get my first one in, I eat, I refuel, I recover, I go get my second one in, and these are 2 very hard sessions. You're dialed, you're focused, you know exactly, like, what your weaknesses are. I spend a ton of time on recovery. I go to US Cryo, I go see active PT as much as I can. Like it consumes your life. Like, that's just the way that I operate now. And, like, I've had to make a ton of sacrifices. I remember when I first, like, really wanted to get serious about CrossFit, like, my friends would go out on the weekends. I'm like, I'm not doing that, right? A huge thing that you helped me with was, like, I started working at the gym, because just being in that environment is very conducive to my training.
You were in a car, weren't you?
Yeah, I was driving like 30 hours a week in a car, and then trying to come to the gym and, like, work out. Like,
sitting in a car is the worst.
It is the
training
devil if you want to train. Like, you get out, you're so stiff. It takes you forever to warm up, and you're never, like, operating at 100%. It felt like. So, like, once I started working at the gym, I was able to, that's a huge stride there.
You're on your feet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Teaching the movements you're trying to get good at.
Yeah, it just makes more sense. And, like, another thing I've had to do is, like, I've had tendonitis in my knee for the past year that I've been working on, and, like, every workout was a battle of, like, warming that up so that it felt good. But, like, I know what my goal is. I'm like, okay, this might suck, but you're going to have to push through it a little bit. Like, you're going to have to push through those little nagging injuries, whereas, like, if you're on the other side of the spectrum, maybe you kind of work around it, do something a little different.
You just don't squat, but you have to maintain capacity, in your squatting and things like
in
that. In
everything, like, you got to live every aspect of CrossFit.
Yep.
Another one that might take a hit is, like, parenting and like, your outside life in general, because you're just so tired all the time. Like,
I remember a stat, like, it was a year or 2 ago, and I think it was Graham was maybe talking about it. Like, the last year he made the games, maybe back in 2015, he was like, I think he was the only parent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was the only parent at the time that had maybe made the games that last year, and then now at this point, I haven't kept up with that, but there might not be, like, at the individual level, there might not have been one. You know, like, I don't know.
There's not many parents out there.
Yeah,
who are individual games athletes.
No.
So it's hard. You don't have enough time in the day.
Yep.
You really don't. Your social life will take a hit. Like, I quit going out. Ever.
Yeah.
Going out for me is like going to North Star on a Friday night. Like, that's a big night for me. I remember my friends were just like, dude, you're being weird. Like, come out with us. It's like, nah, I got to get up and train in the morning.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just what it takes. And, like, you got to understand that school is going to be hard. If you're trying to study for school, again, it's just like, how many hours in the day do you have? Where are you willing to put those? The last one, your sex life might take a hit. It just goes back to that energy level. If you just did, 200 burpees that day and ran 4 miles and God knows what else, like, you get home and you're just like, I'm going right to bed.
Yeah, you're smoked.
Yeah, like, it's just,
you're not in the mood for that.
It's just like how it goes, It's like, some people might think they want they see what a games athlete looks like, man, I want to be that, I want to do that. And it's like, man, you need to understand what it's going to take for you to get to that level.
You have to enjoy that lifestyle.
You do.
So you really enjoy that lifestyle. Like, you don't really seem to miss, the nightlife and things. Like, this is a more enjoyable lifestyle. So you have to figure out, like, hey, is this lifestyle for me?
Yeah.
Any of these, like, at any of these levels. So that's a big thing. Like, we have to figure out our goals and priorities. So if you don't know what they are, start to figure that out. And you can kind of use this podcast a bit as a guide. Like, start to think about, like, hey, these are my goals and priorities. This is what I want to do fitness-wise or appearance-wise. And then from there, decide what you're willing to do to get that. So you're going to have to figure out, like, hey, I can make these changes. I got to decide what I'm not willing to do. We've got one of our wheelhouse demographics, I would say, it's like a single 27-year-old guy who he's a couple years out of college, and he might go out into the short north and have some beers, and he's trying to meet some girls, and staying in to try and get super lean and ripped and good at CrossFit every Saturday night. It might not be something he's willing to do, and that's okay. Like, he's making that decision. Like, I'm not willing to do that, but on the back end, like, I'm going to take a little bit of a hit because I'm not going to feel completely 100% until, maybe Monday or Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So where I'm all cylinders are going to be firing after that long, late Saturday night. You just got to be brutally honest with yourself too. Set realistic goals with yourself, and then start to come up with an action plan. Like, hey, I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to add this, and I can have a fun lifestyle that I enjoy, doing these things. So
yeah. And then, like, once you figure out where you want to go, it's like, what do you do next? Like, you got to understand, like, you got to take the long view of what you're doing.
Yep.
This is a journey. It's not going to, like, be made or break one day at a time. Like, if you have one really big meal, you're not ruined, right? But know that, like, you fasting and starving yourself for 24 hours isn't going to give you a six-pack, right? Yeah. It's the long game. And, like, a simple plan followed consistently is a lot better than, like, a complex plan followed intermittently. And that, like, just goes back to what we were saying. Like, know what you want to do, figure out a small plan, and just try and hit that every day. But, like, if you have a slip-up, you're not done.
Yep.
Right? Just hit the process.
That's like that what was it, the misconception too, where it's like the all or nothing.
Absolutely.
Where people will set up this, like, extremely elaborate plan, and it's like, hey, if you just, I'm going to go to CrossFit 5 days a week. If that's your plan, that's the easy, I'm going to show up to class 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. That's a simple, easy plan to follow. The days you're going to go, the days you're going to stop, or that you're not going to go, and then maybe if you miss a day, you add a day. And it's very simplistic, easy to follow. And
don't overthink it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Where you got to get started. Mm-hmm.
And then, just know that going from, I would just say, like, those the end ones, like, going from that very lean or going from, like, lean to very lean, like, that's going to be, like, the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah.
So, like, we've got some people there, or if you're just starting and you're just kind of starting your fitness journey, like, don't look there. Like, look, like, down the ladder. Like, look at where you're at on
one
the ladder.
step
like,
ahead of you.
That's where I see a lot of people, they look immediately at CrossFit Games. Like, that's where I want to be. Like, work your way down the ladder and understand, hey, this is going to take time. Like, all of this is a process. It takes years. Even at the really high end, like, great athletes like Matt Frazier, like, back when it first started and the competition was really new. Hey, I've been doing it 6 months, but there was not even, like, a competition, like, established as far as CrossFit goes. Like, Matt Frazier took several years to develop in CrossFit before he was, like, at the top of the heap. And people's bodies don't get developed, over a year or two. Like, you got to start thinking about this for the long haul and what changes you're willing to make, and then even, like, where you're at in your life and deciding on that spectrum kind of where you want to be. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of a good place to wrap that up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
guys, we hope, like, some of this really resonated with you. If you got questions about what you need to do to make that next step, or where we think you're at, like, you need an honest assessment or something, ask us. We can help you.
Absolutely.
That's what we're here for,
Yep.
So just a couple announcements next week. That will be the 14th, next Friday. We've got our annual holiday party down at the View.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome. So this is our 9th anniversary as a gym. So 10 years next year. This is the party of the year. So if you're a newer member or you maybe missed it last year, come on out.
Absolutely.
If you've been a member in 2018 and maybe your contract's on hold or you canceled, like, you supported us this year, come out and check it out. Bring a friend, bring a date, enjoy an awesome meal and free drinks on us.
Yeah, like we said, it's a wedding.
Yeah, we throw it at a venue. Yeah, so I saw the venue when we went to one of our members' weddings, Lauren Roatman's, and we're like, I wonder if we could do our party here, and then we just pull the wedding out and just do this. So basically, we throw a wedding without the wedding part, and then we'll have dancing, and then I'll get on the mic and we'll do some like fun announcements. We'll announce like Hot for the Holidays. Sometimes we do some like fun awards for people, like you know, little gag awards for the gym and things like that. So
Jacked and tan.
Yeah, it's
things like that.
It's super duper fun. Yeah. So please come out to that. If you don't come to a party all year, like,
make it this one.
Make it this one. It's well worth it, and it's a great way to meet friends. If you know you're newer to the gym and you don't know a lot of people, like, come out to this one. And then the other one is, and Joey's going to be helping with this. Be on the lookout. We have some really cool renovations coming. We're going to redo the bathrooms and then some interior stuff in the gym. And next few months, the gym's going to look like a whole new place.
Brand new place.
Super duper excited about that. And, you know, bear with us through a little bit of construction.
Yeah, there will be some inconvenient times, but, like, just know it'll be worth it for you guys.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
So yeah, that does it. Episode number 12. Hope to see you guys at the party.
Sounds good.
Sweet. We're out.